Alright, so today we're going to be talking about how to translate expressions, equations, and inequalities. A lot of times I hear my students say that math is practically another language, and it turns out it's true. We are going to be learning how to turn algebraic form, or using all those symbols, into verbal form, which is using the words that we actually use every day. So first we're going to talk about some clue words. We're going to be detectives, and these are going to be clues that we can use to help us whenever we're translating. So on your note sheet there's a section for addition, and I want you to go ahead and fill in all of the words that I've already written. These are all clue words that can tell you to use addition in your algebraic expression. Words like sum, total, plus, increase by, and more than is actually a special one that I want you guys to put a star next to as well. These are all words that can clue you in that you're going to use addition. The next section on your note sheet talks about the clue words for subtraction. Just like we did for addition, you're going to go ahead and write in these. You'll notice that I have a couple of little stars next to the two bottom ones. Less than and subtract from are going to be really special ones that we have to watch out for. We're going to talk about those later. But all of these words are clue words that you can use subtraction in your algebraic expression. Next, we're going to talk about multiplication. Words like times, product, of, twice, double, triple, quadruple, keeps on going. All of these words can give you a clue that you are working with multiplication in your math problem. And then last, we're going to fill in division. Words like quotient, separate, divided by, half, or third, and even the word ratio can give you a clue that you're going to be using division in your math problem. So now we've talked about most of our words, we're going to talk about the ones that are really tricky. We have two groups. One of these is the parentheses phrases, and I want you guys to write in the word groups above there with a little star. These are ones that are going to give you clues that you need to have parentheses when you write out your math problem using the symbols and the numbers. So when we see something that says times the sum of, or times the difference of, or between, those are clues that whatever I have in those quotes there, so like if I say the sum of or the difference of, you're going to have parentheses before you can multiply by the other piece. This is the one that usually throws people, and I call these the turnaround phrases. So we put stars on these already when we talked about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The word less than, subtracted from, and more than, you're going to have to write that in underneath the line. There's not a line for that one. But those three phrases let you know that you need to flip around what you are working with. So that's going to make sense when we get an example. But just make sure that you put a star next to turnaround phrases so you know that those starred words are ones that are very tricky. You got to watch out for those. Alright, so let's try a couple together. We're not going to get through all of these in the video, but I'm going to try a couple easier ones and a couple of harder ones. So number one, or actually just our directions, say to translate each expression or equation. So number one says the product of a number and 3. So the first thing that I'm looking at when I notice that is that I see the word product. And remember, product is one of my clue words for multiplication. So now I'm going to take those two pieces and I'm going to multiply them together. So I got the number 3, and then when it says a number, I don't know what that number is, so I'm going to use a variable to stand in for that mystery number. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose the word, or the letter x. So I'm going to take the number 3 and multiply it by the variable x, because I don't know what number I'm multiplying 3 by. You can write yourself a little note next to your examples. Tell yourself that whenever you see something that says number, a number, you have to use a variable for that. So things like x, y, a, some sort of a letter to stand in for a mystery number. Alright, let's try number 5. This one says the sum of twice a number and 7. I got a lot going on there. First I have the sum, but then I also have this word twice that I know means to multiply. So first I have to do this multiplication. I'm going to take that number. Remember, whenever you see a number, that means you got to pick a variable. I'm just going to keep using x for this worksheet. So I'm going to take my mystery number, and I need to be doing 2 times that, twice. Remember, that was a clue word for multiplication. So I'm going to write a 2 out front of that x. And then I need to add, because remember, sum is a clue word for addition, that number 7. So I'm really picking apart different pieces and different words that I see and finding the best way to put them together. Look, using those words as clues. Let's try number 7. This has got one of those really tricky turnaround phrases. Now, those words less than. You have to be really careful about that. I want you to put a star next to it, just like we put a star next to less than when we talked about it. Now, I do know that less than is a clue word for subtraction, but it's a turnaround phrase. So I'm going to write that right here. Turn around. And all that means is that I need to take the 2 numbers and flip them backwards. So even though 4 is written before the subtraction sign, and I know there's going to be a subtraction sign in there, I'm going to take that 4 and put it after the subtraction sign. So I'm going to put a 4 here. And I have even more going on here. I've got another clue word. I have this squared. And squared is one that we didn't talk about for our clue words. We just have to remember what that means. So I'm going to take that mystery number, and I need to write it down here. But it's not just x minus 4. It's not just 4 less than a number. It's 4 less than a number squared. So I'm going to use that exponent of a 2 to fill that in. I'm going to jump back up and do number 3 just so we do the whole left-hand side. Stay with me here. Quotient is one of those clue words for division. I know that a number needs to be some sort of a variable, and then I have this -5 to use. So the quotient of a number and 5. I'm going to take my number, which is a variable. I'm going to use x again. And I'm going to divide it by -5. Now remember, we can also write that with x on the top, my fraction bar, and then a -5 for my denominator. Those are written. Those mean the exact same thing. Alright, we are going to skip the rest. We'll come back to those in class. But let's talk about equations. Equations have their very own clue word. My clue word, that keyword, just like we have keywords for addition and subtraction, we have a keyword for equations. That keyword is the word is. Sometimes we might see are or equal to. So go ahead and write all of those down there. All of these are keywords that we need to make an equation, which means that we're going to use that equal sign in our math problem. So let's look at number 9. This is another one where I have a lot going on, so I'm going to go through and highlight and underline the important parts of my problem. The first word I see is sum. I know that sum is a clue word for addition. I also see twice, and I know that twice showed up in my multiplication clue words. I've got some mystery number. Remember, I'm going to use a variable there. I have the number 10. I have this word is, which remember I know is a clue word now for equals. And then I also have the number 36. So let's put all that together. I know that I need to be adding, because I've got the sum, so I'm going to have addition in there. I also need to have twice, which means 2 times the number, so I'm going to write 2x. So 2 times the number and 10. So there's my sum. Then I have my is, and I know that the answer here is going to be 36. So I'm going to fill that in. Now right now it doesn't say to solve, we are just translating. So we're taking the words, putting them into math language, those numbers and symbols. Let's look at number 11. So now I'm going to pick out the important words. I like to go through and underline my numbers and highlight those keywords. So I see the number 4. I also see that I have that word times, and that's a clue word for multiplication. I have a mystery number. I also have those words divided by. And I know that that's a key word for division. I also have the number 8, 3, and then that keyword is. So let's put it all together. First, I'm going to start out with that 4. I know that I'm taking the 4 and I'm multiplying it by a mystery number. I don't know what that number is, so I'm going to use an X to stand in for it. And remember, if I have them switched together, that means multiplying. Then I'm going to divide by that number 8 to get my answer, means equals to, of 3. Alright, we're going to try one more in this section, number 13. This one says 1/2 of a number, and 1/2 is really a number there. 1/2 of a number. Remember, of is one of those kind of tricky ones. Sometimes it can mean multiplication. And since I have 2 numbers that are separated by the of, I'm going to put a little highlight on there, come back to it. So 1/2 of a number, I think that might be multiplication, is 8. So I'm going to highlight that is, underline the number 8. Now I have that really tricky less than. Remember, less than is one of those turnaround phrases that I have to be careful of. Is 8 less than the number itself? So I'm talking about the same mystery number here. So I'm going to go through and pick each piece apart. I'm starting out with 1/2 of that mystery number. So I'm multiplying by a mystery number equals. Now this is that tricky less than. I know that that means subtraction, so I'm going to write my subtraction in there, but it is a turnaround phrase. So I have to put the 8 at the end and the X, that mystery number, the same mystery number, so I'm going to use the same letter, out front of the subtraction problem. Alright. Let's talk about inequalities. Let's do a quick review on the symbols and the words that we use for them. So whenever we see the word less than, we can use our less than symbol. Less than or equal to is the same thing, but we've got the line underneath. Greater than is the opposite direction, and greater than or equal to is going to have the line underneath that as well. So it's almost like they squished that equal sign up into the inequality sign. So let's try an example. It says a number, so some mystery number. I'm going to go ahead and underline that. Is less than. Now this is tricky because I do see that word is, but when I have is less than, I know that that means, and I want you guys to write this in your sheet as well. Write an is out front. Because when I just see less than alone, that means subtraction. We already talked about that. But if I have an is less than, that makes it an inequality. And then I have the number -10. So I'm going to start out with that mystery number, use my less than sign, and then write my -10 afterwards. That one didn't have much going on. Let's try a little bit of a trickier one. Number 19 says, a number is greater than or equal to -4. So this one has a whole bunch of words going on there. I see that word is, but I have greater than coming after it. So that means that I have a whole bunch more. It's not just an equal sign. Go ahead and write in your is's. Forgot to keep that going. So I'm going to take my mystery number, x. This one is greater than or equal to, so I'm going to use my greater than sign with the equals bar underneath, -4. Some of these have a little bit more of a real-world application, so where we might see them in regular life. So number 21 says a speed limit of 55 miles per hour. Now this doesn't have any of our clue words. We have to think about what that means. A speed limit means that you can't go any faster than 55. So I want to be all the numbers less than or equal to 55, because if the speed limit is 55, it's okay to go that fast. I know I'm going to be using 55. I know that I'm going to have some mystery number because I don't know how fast I'm actually going. But I want all the numbers that are less than or equal to 55. So sometimes you have to think about what that actually means. Let's try number 25. This one says a maximum. Remember, maximum, when we talk about it in the real world, that means that that's the most that it could be. So if I'm talking about the number 25, I'm going to put that here. I know I've got some mystery number, but all my numbers have to be less than 25 because I can't go any higher. So this is another less than or equal to. Number 26 has the opposite. This is a minimum. Whenever we say minimum, that means that I'm looking for all the numbers that are bigger than 5. But 5 still works, so I'm going to keep that equals bar underneath. So we've gone through a lot of examples with translating between expressions, equations, and inequalities. It's really just about practice. So we're going to keep practicing in class, keep seeing these words, and eventually it's almost like we just read it and we are able to write it down instantly.